0600 hours. Caribbean Sea, 70 nautical miles, north of La Guaira, Venezuela. The morning horizon glowed a faint amber line fractured by the silhouettes of Venezuelan patrol ships sweeping the water for smuggling activity. The sea was still unnaturally calm, and yet on their radar scopes, nothing. But out there, beneath the veil of heat and salt, something vast was moving. The USS Zumwalt DDG-1000, America's stealth destroyer, a vessel built to be invisible, had silently breached into the Caribbean. Its 610-foot composite hull angled to scatter radar waves sliced through the water without echo. For the Venezuelan Navy, it was a ghost made of steel. Sensors aboard the Guaycamacuto patrol ship began to flicker, their operators murmuring in disbelief. The radar return was faint, single blip, then nothing. Commander Ruiz ordered a visual sweep, unaware that an American ship the size of a skyscraper was already within visual range, cloaked in mist and reflective plating. Within minutes, the calm sea would erupt into a confrontation no one saw coming, one that would test nerve technology and control over one of the world's most contested waters. Stay on your screen, soldiers. What happens next will redefine naval stealth forever. 0600 hours Caribbean Sea, 70 nautical miles, north of La Guaira, Venezuela. The morning horizon glowed a faint amber line fractured by the silhouettes of Venezuelan patrol ships sweeping the water for smuggling activity. The sea was still unnaturally calm, and yet on their radar scopes, nothing. But out there, beneath the veil of heat and salt, something vast was moving. The USS Zumwalt DDG-1000, America's stealth destroyer, a vessel built to be invisible, had silently breached into the Caribbean. Its 610-foot composite hull angled to scatter radar waves sliced through the water without echo. For the Venezuelan Navy, it was a ghost made of steel. Sensors aboard the Guaycamacuto patrol ship began to flicker, their operators murmuring in disbelief. The radar return was faint. Hitting a single blip, then nothing. Commander Ruiz ordered a visual sweep, unaware that an American ship the size of a skyscraper was already within visual range, cloaked in mist and reflective plating. Within minutes, the calm sea would erupt into a confrontation no one saw coming, one that would test nerve technology and control over one of the world's most contested waters. Stay on your screen, soldiers. What happens next will redefine naval stealth forever. The air over the Caribbean thickened with a salty haze as the Venezuelan patrol ship Guaycamacuto cut through the low waves, its turbines humming steadily. The crew, tense but alert, scanned the horizon. Nothing but the rhythmic pulse of the sea and the distant call of gulls. Yet every man aboard felt it, that invisible weight of something massive watching them. At precisely 0637 hours, Lieutenant Ortega detected a faint disturbance on sonar, a sound too rhythmic, too deliberate to be natural. The operator's hands trembled as the acoustic signature scrolled across the monitor, low-frequency vibrations, almost matching the propulsion pattern of the U.S. Navy's Zumwalt-class destroyer. But that was impossible. The last confirmed position of any Zumwalt vessel was in the Pacific, thousands of miles away. Meanwhile, 50 meters beneath the surface, USS Zumwalt glided in near silence. Inside its operations center, the air was cool, illuminated only by the soft blue light of touchscreens. Commander Jonathan Pike, a 42-year-old naval officer with a reputation for calm under pressure, stood over the tactical map. The ship's sensors were locked on the Venezuelan patrol group, 3 ships in a triangular formation attempting to establish visual contact. Maintain EMCON Alpha. Pike ordered strict mission control. No transmissions, no radar, no external signals, only passive sensors. The Zumwalt was built for this, to vanish in plain sight, its radar cross-section smaller than a fishing boat, its exhaust redirected underwater to minimize heat signature. Above the surface, the Guaycamacuto's deck gun swiveled slowly. Its crew had no target, only the creeping sensation that something immense was right beside them. A sudden shift in the waterline drew their attention, a ripple pattern unlike anything they'd seen before, as if the sea itself was bending around an invisible hull. And then, without warning, the mist parted. Out of the fog rose the sharp, angular silhouette of the Zumwalt black-gray, and silent its towerless deck gleaming like a monolith. The Venezuelan sailors froze. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stop. A ship that should have been undetectable was now looming over them, its 155 mm advanced gun systems locked in neutral position yet radiating power. Commander Ruiz on the Venezuelan bridge seized his radio mic. "Identify yourself. You are in Venezuelan territorial waters," he barked, voice cracking through the static. But the Zumwalt remained mute. No reply, no signal. It simply moved, pivoting slowly, its hull displacing thousands of tons of water without a sound. The psychological effect was devastating. The crew of To the Guaycamacuto felt as though they were witnessing something unnatural, a machine from another dimension. Inside the Zumwalt, the silence was deliberate. Commander Pike's orders from the Pentagon were clear: observe and record. Do not engage. Do not communicate. This was a test to measure Venezuela's coastal detection capability and electronic response time. Every second of radar data, every thermal reaction was being logged and transmitted via encrypted burst satellite link to U.S. Cyber Command. By 0652, tension reached a breaking point. The Venezuelan ships moved into intercept formation. Their radar operators reported intermittent ghost returns. The destroyer's radar signature was fragmenting across multiple angles, a deliberate countermeasure. Missile targeting systems failed to lock on. The Zumwalt's radar deflecting surfaces were scattering beams like shards of light off a mirror. Then came a sudden acoustic boom, a warning shot from a Venezuelan 76 mm gun fired just off the bow of the unidentified vessel. The explosion shattered the morning calm. Birds scattered. The Zumwalt did not flinch. Instead, its main engine turbines shifted pitch, releasing a deep mechanical growl that rolled across the waves like thunder. Commander Pike watched the Venezuelan vessels reposition. They fired a warning, he muttered to his executive officer. "We'll give them a show." He keyed a silent internal command. From beneath the hull, a series of countermeasure drones deployed small submersible pods designed to emit decoy radar signals. Within seconds, the Venezuelan radars were overwhelmed with false contacts. Their screens filled with phantom signatures, 10, 20, 50 targets, as if an entire fleet had materialized. Panic spread. Multiple vessels incoming, shouted Ortega from sonar. Bearing 041063 everywhere. But in reality, there was only one ship, and it was moving right through their formation. At 0704, the Zumwalt crossed within 900 meters of the Guaycamacuto. Water surged violently as the destroyer's massive hull displaced the sea. The Venezuelan ship rocked hard, almost colliding with its escort vessel. The sound of clanging metal and shouts echoed across the radio net. For a brief moment, the two vessels were side by side, the Venezuelan patrol ship, painted in dull navy blue, dwarfed by the stealth gray giant beside it. Every man on deck could see the angular edges, the seamless hull plates, the eerie lack of windows. The American flag fluttered faintly on the mast. And just as suddenly as it appeared, the Zumwalt began to fade again into the mist, turning southward. Its hull blended with the gray horizon until it vanished entirely, leaving only the turbulent wake of disturbed water and stunned faces behind. Onboard Guaycamacuto Commander Ruiz stood speechless. "Did we just see a ghost?" he whispered. His radar officer replied softly, "Sir, it's gone. The sea is clear." But for the U.S. Navy, the operation was far from over. The Zumwalt's onboard AI began compiling the collected data radar sweep, times electronic frequencies, heat bloom reaction, all meticulously recorded. Within hours, the Pentagon would know exactly how long it took for Venezuela to detect an invisible warship in its own backyard. As the destroyer slipped into deeper waters, Commander Pike looked out through the command viewport, a narrow slit beneath armored glass. The Caribbean sun was rising golden and calm. No gunfire, no casualties, just silence. And yet he knew what they had just done would echo across every intelligence agency from Caracas to Beijing. The message was simple: the U.S. could appear anywhere, anytime, unseen, unstoppable. What Venezuela saw that morning was not just a ship. It was a shadow of the future, a glimpse into the invisible wars already being fought across the oceans. By the time the sun reached its zenith over the Caribbean, the Venezuelan Navy's communications network was in chaos. Radar logs contradicted each other. Visual reports conflicted, and sonar data seemed almost fictional. Caracas demanded answers. How had a massive U.S. warship entered their waters undetected and left without a trace? At Naval Command in La Guaira, officers huddled around flickering monitors. Satellite images from the previous night revealed only a faint wake pattern, no identifiable vessel. Intelligence analysts cross-checked heat signatures, but the readings were inconclusive. The official statement labeled it a possible radar malfunction due to atmospheric interference, yet every sailor who had witnessed the Phantom destroyer knew better. Meanwhile, 180 miles offshore, the USS Zumwalt cruised at a steady 22 knots. The crew was silent, reflective. Commander Pike reviewed mission logs with his executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Harris. The data was clear: Venezuelan radar detection delay 4 minutes 31 seconds. Response time 9 minutes 12 seconds. Intercept readiness incomplete. For Pike, it wasn't just a successful test, it was a demonstration of dominance, the practical application of stealth technology decades in the making. Deep inside the ship's Combat Information Center, analysts replayed the moment the Venezuelan warning shot exploded across the water. The ship's hull barely registered the shockwave. Acoustic dampeners and hydrodynamic hull design had absorbed the sound as if the explosion had never occurred. This vessel, one technician murmured, is practically a ghost fortress. In Washington, a secure briefing began at the Pentagon's C3Y facility. High-definition feeds from the Zumwalt's optical sensors projected across the wall real-time footage of Venezuelan patrol vessels firing into empty water. Senior officers watched in silence. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs leaned forward, expression unreadable. "They never saw us coming," he said softly. "And they never will." But far from Washington, the incident triggered political shockwaves. Venezuelan state media released grainy footage of the event, a blurred silhouette on the horizon, a ripple in the mist, a booming echo. Within hours, international headlines erupted: unknown warship violates Venezuelan waters. Caribbean confrontation raises questions of U.S. intent. Ghost ship over the tropics. Venezuela demands explanation. Moscow condemned the act as unprovoked aggression. Beijing called it a deliberate test of sovereignty. The Pentagon denied involvement, issuing a vague statement about routine maritime operations in international waters. In Caracas, the government convened an emergency press conference. The defense minister stood before cameras, eyes weary, insisting that Venezuelan radar systems were fully operational and that an unidentified stealth vessel had entered territorial waters. He avoided naming the United States but emphasized foreign intrusion. For the public, it was both terrifying and humiliating, a reminder of their technological vulnerability. Inside Venezuelan naval bases, engineers worked feverishly to recalibrate radar systems. Russian advisors were called in to inspect the S-300 and Podsolnuk-E over-the-horizon radars, but even they admitted the challenge. Zumwalt's radar signature was smaller than that of a fishing boat. "You can't track what physics refuses to reflect," one Russian technician muttered. At the same time, Venezuelan intelligence intercepted encrypted chatter across regional communication bands. A pattern emerged: whispers of the USS Zumwalt's presence, of electronic warfare exercises near Puerto Rico, of invisible reconnaissance patrols operating off Panama. The region buzzed with speculation. Back aboard the Zumwalt, Commander Pike convened his officers in the mess hall. "We've just proven the future of sea control," he began. "But we've also started something none of us can predict." The men nodded, uneasy. They knew that each mission like this one edged closer to an invisible frontier where conflict existed not in open fire, but in data sensors and silence. At 2100 hours, Pike received a secure transmission from Naval Command: "Mission successful, return to Norfolk immediately." The destroyer's engines hummed to full power. Beneath a starlit sky, the Zumwalt cut a clean, unbroken path through the black water. Its wake shimmered faintly, vanishing almost as soon as it formed, like the passing of a ghost. In the Caribbean night, the Venezuelan coast was barely a line of lights on the horizon. Somewhere out there, sailors were still staring into the sea, wondering if what they'd seen had ever been real. But for the U.S. Navy, the answer was already logged, encrypted, and archived. The stealth destroyer had entered hostile waters, completed a full observation cycle, and escaped detection, all within 29 minutes. A record that would redefine naval warfare for decades. What no one yet knew was that the data gathered from this encounter would be used to calibrate the next generation of artificial intelligence-driven naval systems vessels capable of total invisibility, autonomous navigation, and AI-coordinated fleet synchronization. The Zumwalt was no longer just a ship. It was the prototype for a new kind of ghost fleet. And in the heart of the Caribbean, where the waves whispered and the horizon glowed faintly red under the setting sun, the ocean kept its secret, one that only the deep, silent waters would remember. Dawn broke over the Atlantic as USS Zumwalt entered open waters, its angular hull gliding through golden light. The storm of media speculation, diplomatic denials, and secret briefings now echoed behind it like distant thunder. To the outside world, the incident in the Caribbean was a fleeting mystery. To those aboard the Zumwalt, it was the confirmation of something far greater, the birth of a new kind of warfare where power no longer needed to be seen to be feared. Commander Pike stood alone on the bridge, coffee in hand, watching the radar display cycle through its silent sweeps. The air inside the command deck was calm, no alarms, no chatter. Only the steady hum of machines that could read the sea better than any human eye. The ship's AI Orion continued to process the mission data in real time, cross-referencing radar reflection patterns, magnetic anomalies, and sonar distortions to refine its invisibility algorithms. Below-deck engineers ran diagnostic sweeps on the ship's integrated power system, an all-electric drive capable of powering railguns, directed energy weapons, and advanced sensors simultaneously. Every number, every reading came back clean. The Zumwalt had performed flawlessly. Ghost completed, the chief engineer reported. Pike nodded slowly. Then the ocean never saw us. But even as the crew settled into routine operations, the consequences of their silent intrusion rippled outward. In Caracas, Venezuelan defense planners rushed to coordinate with Russian radar experts. In Beijing, naval intelligence briefed high command on American stealth penetration capabilities. Moscow issued a quiet directive to accelerate development of next-generation anti-stealth radar arrays. The Zumwalt's brief appearance had ignited a race, one that would push every naval power on Earth into the shadows of invisible war. 2 days later, as the destroyer approached Norfolk, Pike received an encrypted transmission from the Pentagon's Advanced Maritime Systems Division. It contained a single classified message: Operation Ghost Tide complete. Commence Phase 2 multi-theater deployment. He read it twice, then looked out across the gray expanse of the Atlantic. Somewhere out there, other ships would soon follow: automated destroyers, unmanned submarines, invisible carriers coordinated by satellite AI networks. The Zumwalt had not just tested stealth. It had proven the viability of total information dominance. That night, as the crew stood on deck under the stars, the atmosphere was strangely reverent. They knew they had witnessed history, even if no one outside their ranks ever would. The ocean breeze carried the faint scent of salt and diesel, and beneath the surface, the sea seemed almost aware, restless whispering in low waves against the hull. In a quiet moment, Pike reflected on the nature of their mission. They had invaded another nation's awareness, not its territory. No shots were exchanged, no damage done, yet the psychological impact was irreversible. It was the new frontier of deterrence, the fear of what cannot be seen. When the Zumwalt finally docked at Naval Station Norfolk, there were no bands, no cameras, only a small group of officers waiting at dawn, clipboards in hand. Data drives were transferred in silence. The mission officially never happened. And yet, weeks later, intelligence satellites captured strange patterns in the Caribbean Venezuelan radar sites operating around the clock. New signal interference detected near Cuba, and rumors of unidentified vessels patrolling at night. The Ghost had left a trace not on the water, but in the minds of every Navy that had heard the story. In the years to come, analysts would call the Zumwalt incident the spark that began the silent era, a time when nations no longer sought to show strength, but to erase themselves from sight. Back aboard the ship, Commander Pike logged his final entry into the mission file. Visibility is vulnerability. The next war won't begin with an explosion. It will begin with silence. He closed the log, set his cap on the console, and looked out one last time at the endless, glittering horizon. The sea stretched on forever calm and indifferent, holding its secrets tight beneath the surface. And somewhere far below the waves, the faint echo of a passing giant lingered, invisible, eternal, and waiting to return.